Art Nomad, Art Nomad. Here we're wandering the world in search of art that might help us see things a bit differently, hunting for something that might open our eyes or even scratch the underbelly of culture and creativity. It's a journey that goes left, right, up, down, forward, backward, but it's also a journey that I hope never ends. This week's theme is faces. My guest is artist Erica Elias. She is self-taught as an artist and living in Belgium. In a way, faces found her when she started drawing, painting. What came back were faces, and they took up residency in her work, and they've refused to leave ever since. Now, before we talk to our featured woman of 1,000 faces, I've got a story for you. This is a story of hidden faces, and for years, artists have been sneaking their self-portraits into some of the most famous works of art. These Easter eggs have been going on for centuries now, but in order to figure out why, we have to step way back. We have to go to the high medieval ages, like the 1100s. Back in those days, they weren't really artists. They were seen more as manual laborers or humble craftspeople. Then the Renaissance came around, and when that happened, it gave birth to humanism, and that started to change things. Actual faces were being painted and drawn, and there was shade and shadow and depth, and they invented perspective. And now, during those times, self-portraiture was frowned upon. It was actually seen as vain and unclassy. And so these great masters of creativity found subtle and hidden ways to get their self-portraits into their commissions. For example, Raphael, he painted the School of Athens, which was commissioned by the Vatican. It's a massive fresco and showed a gathering of all the greatest minds to antiquity. There was Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, I think Pythagoras is in there. And Raphael decided to place himself in there for two reasons. One, he believed that artists should be there. And two, it acted as a signature of his own work. Now, while all of the thinkers are in that room pontificating and busy doing things, Raphael just stares back at us as a way to invite us in. So if you ever do go to the Vatican Museum, you can still see that fresco, and you can see Raphael in the right-hand corner behind two other people with his black beret on, staring out and greeting us. Now, another story, we head far north to Holland, where Jan van Eyck painted the Arnolfini portrait. It's a portrait of two people, and in the background, there's a small convex mirror. And in that mirror, the entire room is reflected back in that. It's like 3 inches in the actual painting, and there's a ton of detail in there. You need a magnifying glass to see it all. But if you look at the reflection, you look past the two people being painted, there's two more people, and one of them is Van Eyck. That's a very, very clever way for him to get his own self-portrait into the reflection. Michelangelo, we all know Michelangelo. He hated painting, despised it. He actually thought of it as a lesser art form and always called himself a sculptor. Now, 24 years after he painted the amazing Sistine Chapel for the Vatican, they asked him back to paint the Last Judgment. He did not want to do it. He was absolutely done with painting. But the Vatican has a lot of money, and a lot of money they gave him. So he came back, but he wasn't happy. Now, when Michelangelo painted St. Bartholomew, he shows him holding his own flayed skin. But instead of putting a saintly face on that drooping, flayed skin, Michelangelo put his own face there. And it was probably less of a self-portrait and more of a loud protest against having to paint this thing. Much like Michelangelo, Caravaggio was going through a dark time. And when he painted David with the head of Goliath, he inserted himself. However, he didn't put himself as David. He chose to put his face on the severed, bleeding head of of Goliath. And it's very fitting actually for Caravaggio. He fought a lot of demons and he was actually wanted for murder at the time. And there was a bounty out on his head. But yeah, a very dark representation of a self portrait for sure. So that's it for self portraits. Let's jump over to the interview with Erica Elias. Erica Elias, welcome to Art Nomad. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Eric. I'm happy to be here with you.
The theme for this podcast is phase. And I have to say it's probably the most on the nose theme that I've had, but it makes the most sense because what you do is you paint faces. And so I think it's a perfect theme for this, and I'm looking forward to getting into it with you. I wanna before we get into that, I wanted to just quickly ask you what you think about some of the most popular faces in the art world. And I think it's good to start with the most visited painting in the world, and that's Leonardo's Mona Lisa. Being someone who paints so many faces, do you have an opinion on that painting?
Well, my first trip to Europe, I think I was 19 years old, and I saw that for the first time, and I was just so disappointed. And
That's
it was,
that's, that's so
and I just
amazing.
looked at it. I know, and I looked at it, and I thought, this is just this, placid character. It just looks so unhappy, and I didn't really understand at the time the context, of a female, what her background was, who she was. I just was so utterly dismayed. The composition, the color, the emotion, it was just, I didn't feel much other than just kind of sadness.
Yeah, exactly around the same time I went to Europe. I did a year abroad over there, and I went to the Louvre, and I saw, and I had the exact same opinion as you. I'm like, why? Why is this painting so famous? And it's not that I don't like that period of art. Like there are so many great paintings of that time that I think are so much more interesting and powerful. But I didn't get it, and I think because maybe because it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci that maybe holds some weight, but then also it got stolen in the early 1900s, and I feel like a painting became much more famous because it was stolen. Anyway, I agree with you. When I saw it, I didn't feel much at all. But there's other paintings in the Louvre that are way more powerful. Is there I guess like a painted face in the world of painting? Is
I
there something
have,
that stuck out to you at a young age?
I have one painting. I don't even know who it's from. And I've kept it for many, many years next to my desk in a little wooden frame. And I've always loved this. And it's just this wonderful, woman who looks very, is kind of colorful with, blues and reds. And she looks almost very satirical.
That's interesting that your influence comes from sort of an unknown, versus the stuff that hangs on museum walls and the stuff that people celebrate and write about and study. But instead, you have this thing that you found that identifies with so much. And I guess because you can have it too, and you hold it, and it's with you all the time. Like that's nice. Let's jump into the very beginning. You and I have known each other our entire lives. We were babies in a commune together called Synanon. I moved in when I was 4. How old were you? Or were you born there? I can't remember.
I was born there,
You were born
born
there,
in
okay.
Synanon. Yeah.
Right. So we've known each other most our lives. But I always when I think back on our time in Synanon, I always think that it was really interesting because they placed art like in the foreground of our lives. And I'm just curious if A, you felt that way, and B, was it something that has influenced you in your art?
Well, it surely must be somewhere there somewhere, but I didn't ever never thought of myself as an artist. I wasn't really the type of child who was often in my room alone drawing or things like that at all. I was much more an extrovert, running around, sitting on people's laps, playing pool and chatting and listening to all the conversations, and on the dance floor rather than.
Yeah.
So I do remember Lee Medeiros was our teacher here, and I do remember him taking me out, us as a group, onto, like a little hillside, and we walked out into our classes were very experiential and interactive, right? So I remember him saying, look at it, what do you see? We were all quiet. It was like a sunny, warm day. Of course, the first kids would just be like, I see a green, grassy hill. He's like, no, no,
Mm.
no, but look a little bit closer. Do you see the chamomile? Do you see what shades of green do you see? Like, you're really helping us be present in that moment. So that was
Yeah.
a nice memory. Do you remember that?
I don't. I mean, I remember. I definitely remember him as a teacher. I don't remember that moment. I remember going to see Christo's running fence. Do you remember when we went to go see his like the big white fence that just went over the like? And I had no idea like about contemporary art or anything, but they took
That
us to
was
go.
Christoph. Really? That was his work?
Yeah, that was Christo's work. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Like, and we had no idea. I mean, I had no idea for years until I studied him later in college. But and it's funny, like
That's
you, I
true.
never thought, so I don't draw particularly well. I don't like, I'm not a art, like I'm not a drawer in that sense. I can't draw things that well, but, and I never really thought I was a creative person or an artist per se. But then, when I went to architecture school because I was good at math, and my counselor said you can go in engineering, accounting, or architecture, and I'm like, well, I don't think I want to be an engineer or an accountant, so I'll do architecture because I'm good at math. And then that's when I found all the creativity, or how like I had all this kind of in me,
Uh-huh.
or it opened it all up. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
interesting.
actually my I don't know if you want to, I mean, when I really started doing art, which can I tell you a little bit about that? Like when I really started immersing
Yeah,
myself with that.
yeah, sure. Let's jump into it. Yeah.
So it was after my daughter had just been born. And so she was probably, I guess, at age 3 when you can hold the pencil, I would say, actually like the crayon,
Mm,
around
yeah,
2003. Once I started giving her crayons, I started just taking her crayons and doing drawings next to her.
that's great.
Instead of just watching her, it was like, let's just both do it. And then at that time, her dad got me for my birthday some pastels, crayons. And
Mm,
then I really just started, doing it. And then, my kids would be creative. I would be creative because it was something I really wanted them to, that I really encouraged. I mean, that I spent a lot of time doing theatrical dress up with them, a lot of, food, brownies, licking your fingers, getting messy, and a lot of art projects, like with them.
right.
Um,
And so you
so
were
then,
always
so,
doing it
but so
with them.
since, yeah, so basically and then I would just travel. I did a lot of traveling in my life, and then I would bring my supplies with me. You know, uh, I was in Africa quite a bit with my ex-husband, and so I couldn't leave the house because they were in danger zones where there was a lot of war around. So I would just spend all day, 8 to 10 hours drawing. I couldn't leave the hotel. No internet connection, no, but over the years, from the years 2000 to 2015, I was drawing, but I was also building a business, and I was like a very, very busy kind of, entrepreneur.
Mm.
So I did art, but I didn't have that much time to dedicate it to it. So when I would travel is when I would do the most of it. When I was really on my holidays is when I would really spend a lot of hours doing it, because then I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time or the possibility. I was raising a family and also building a business.
You
The
know,
same year that
that's
my daughter was born, I started my business.
so right. So you definitely had your hands full. And then so obviously you're self-taught in all this.
Yep. In the beginning, I didn't even want to put a signature onto my art. And I didn't show it for 15 years. I did art for 15 years and I never showed it because I was like,
Mm.
I'm not really an artist, I mean, just this is something I have to do. It's just something that I'm drawn to, and in order just part of my soul, is part of just something that comes out. That's part of my unconscious, looking for that. So I never really even put a signature. I used to initial it in the beginning. From the first years, you'll see all my art is just initialed EE. And
Got
then,
it.
and then I did a first art show. A friend invited me, And it gave me a little bit of trust and confidence because she had got done the art school and all of that stuff. And so she said, "You want to show with me?" And then from that point forward, after I did my first show and kind of got out of the closet, then I started signing.
And I kind of like EE. I mean, that's kind of a nice mark.
Maybe we'll go back to that, Eric. Wait,
Come on, let's go. I'm a very graphic person, like visually, I'm very graphic. So like this, the idea of an EE is interesting.
well, now I've started to leave a piece of hair or use my fingerprint because that's really
Oh,
like the DNA.
do you do that next to your name, or are you doing that
Yeah, I
instead
mean,
of your name?
I, no, it's just kind of hidden in there sometimes. I'll
Yeah.
just put my finger on the paint and then I put it on as kind of a fingerprint. And then the hair, as I'm painting, there's so much of it, it always falls out, and I just kind of leave it and integrate it and let it in case one day. It's kind of a sign of our crazy times, right? All the verification, all the DNA.
Oh, that's interesting. So, wait, so your hair, you said your hair was falling out while doing it, and then you thought, okay, well, I'll just leave this as a DNA sign for
Yeah,
my work. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's kind of like art is a lot of it comes, a lot of the best. It's a lot of mistakes. Like
Yeah.
that's a perfect, something happens and then you just kind of go with it instead of resisting it.
You do
Thanks, Eric.
you paint, as far as I know, exclusively faces. And I'm just curious, did you come to that like early on? Did you were you painting other things or drawing other things and then you honed in on the face, or was it like from day one you're like I'm drawing faces?
No, in the very beginning, I was just doing kind of like decorative stuff. I would just sit there with the white piece of paper and not much came, and just kind of like,
Mm.
colors together and kind of, just simple, a square. There was some red, orange, and red, or. And actually, very quickly, when I started working with the watercolors,
Mm.
it was much more difficult for me with pastel. The watercolors where all the magic happened because I would put the brush into the water and then just let the water drip onto the piece of paper. Then I would dip the color, and then immediately I started to see all the faces.
Oh.
So it was a really cool process that started to happen. Like, even though you look at me as a person, you'll be like, oh, well, Erica was raised in a community. My work was interviewing people and headhunting and thousands of people and looking at faces and sitting across the table from faces. So it kind of makes sense with me as a person, but it was actually that process where it wasn't like, oh, now I'm going to start doing this. It really kind of appeared. That's all I could see every single time the paint would drop. It's all that. And then of course I might have that disease in the sense that when I travel and I'm looking at a mountain or rocks, I always see the face first.
It's funny you call that a disease. I
It
don't know. I
has.
think that's a gift.
Well, apparently it is. So what is it? I don't know if it's called a. I
Oh,
forgot the name.
is it? Is it oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's a
I had no
type.
idea.
It's a type.
You're a
Somebody
type.
brought that to my attention recently, and I've already forgotten it because it's like a new piece of knowledge, so it just kind of escapes me. But yeah,
Oh, that's
apparently when
fascinating.
it's a type when you see faces and everything, and I think I have that.
Because I think, I mean, I don't really know, and I'm speak from myself or from people I talk to, but I do see faces usually in houses or facades or in a lot of vehicles. Like every time I see a vehicle, like the lights are eyes, and I always thought of it as a gift. I had no idea there was some kind of type out there, but that's great.
Well,
So then, so you're that type.
yeah. Um, give me that box. Put me in that box.
Put me in there. We have a lot of boxes we get put into, and we can
Yeah, so
get
I've
out
done
as well.
a lot of my work is in a box. I do like a frame with the box, and then I have people kind of the faces are peering out and stepping out from that.
And why is that? Like, why do you use the boxes? Is it more like you're framing them in a box?
Hmm.
And is there a reason why you do that? Is it because we're all put
Well,
in boxes?
I didn't really when I started doing it, I didn't realize what it was. That's what's so incredible about this. It's very therapeutic. And then after my own self-analysis, I realized that I was very, very annoyed for many, many years through my work as a headhunter when, asked to fill people a job description. I'd have a manager who'd say, I need somebody who has 5 years of experience, with this software language, this coding language, who's done the exact same thing. I want them to do the exact same thing. They were kind of put into that box.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so I did that for years, Eric. I mean, that was what I had to do. And it was quite difficult. I mean, I wasn't really helping so many people evolve because if I was getting paid that kind of money, they wanted the person to be operational immediately. There was no real growth. It was like, I want them just to be able to do what they've already done.
Hmm.
And I used to get frustrated because I used to see the potential always in people that most jobs could be learned within, 3 months, you know?
Got it.
So, yeah. So
With
I guess that
with
was kind of my rebel. Stepping out of that box became like a real theme.
no, you mentioned that, or I read it somewhere about the rebel showing up in your work
Yeah, that was a way.
on a
Mm.
regular basis. Can you explain that a little more? The role of the rebel?
Well, I think, I think it's also a sign of our times. So, I mean, and what we experience. I mean, if I have, I did a piece of art recently and I look at it and it's a lady like in a prison. I mean, it's like, where the hell does that come? I'm listening to a podcast of war and and while I may be drawing and then all of a sudden what's in front of me is, this young man that's saddened, looking like a soldier. And I realized that same week. So it's the rebel is, what we're confronted with. I have drawings called, ID card, just a bunch of faces with your ID card. The ID, how we're identified.
Oh, right.
I have a large one that I've done. I've done very few large formats, but called the resistance. So I think, and there's also this kind of underdog. I mean, if you look at the faces is quite broad. How come they're not all smiley faces? I was the smiliest kid I was the happiest, most positive child you knew. How come my art doesn't project who that child was that you knew? I think that's the rebel is that it's really that sensitivity that I have to the people who are lost, the underdog, basically. I mean, I used to see all those interviews, all those people who were just trying to sell themselves, to prove themselves, to get ahead. And usually they were the most, the shyest, the ones that didn't smile. I mean, there was so much emphasis to smile. I don't even know if I'm really a smiley person, if I was just, brainwashed to smile, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what my nature is. So I guess in my art, that's not my nature. But
I
the
could I could
unconscious is not very smiley.
I could definitely say you were not brainwashed to be smiling. Cause I feel like there were definitely the kids who were more lonesome or more quiet. And then there were the kids who were out there and full of energy, and you were full of energy like always. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
think they can teach that. Like, it's
Okay.
just
So
like
it's my nature.
the kids. Yeah, it was your nature
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
So getting back, um, to these types of faces, like when you start a painting, do you do you know what's gonna, like, do you say, okay, I have like this idea of the soldier, and because I'm listening to this podcast, or like, or are you, or is it just coming out of you as you start, like, do you know what you're going to paint when you sit down?
No, never. And that's what's incredibly extraordinary. That's why I would be interested to talk with, people more, the art therapists,
Hmm.
because it's something that it's very much a reflection when I look around and I see what have I been reading, what have I been listening to, where have I been? I have this piece that when I did it in Africa, I mean, it was so resembled my surrounding, and I had no idea that I didn't put the two together. So it wasn't a planned thing. It's just the unconscious. It's basically like a downpour of my unconscious. In the beginning, the faces were really abstract. If I show you the earlier pieces, you can't even see the face.
Hmm.
You'll look at it and be like, I don't see it. But I would always be saying, you see the face? Do you see the face? People, and they would be like, no. And then that was a part of the fun for me. Is like, well, I love that about that because that was also part of people making quick judgments and they don't really pay attention.
Right,
That's why
right.
nobody has ears because they don't listen. So nobody even has ears in my work.
I
Part of the face,
noticed
they're
that.
all earless.
Well,
Yeah.
when I was going through your work, I noticed, actually, I was gonna say that they don't have ears, but then they also almost don't have noses. Like that, it's a line. You like,
No.
there's no.
Yeah,
So
there's one long line.
you draw faces, but but there's no ears and nose. Can you just talk a bit more about that? Like you strip all your work of ears, and that's
Right.
is
Well,
it just
that's
because of
part of
what
the
you
rebel.
said?
I've just noticed how very few people listen
Hmm.
to each other. And sometimes I think, well, maybe it's just not that important. Maybe that it's not, maybe the ones who really listen, it's got to be, but you have to do say something more intelligent to really captivate them.
Yeah. How did you how did you go from like only you seeing the faces to now almost everything you do, it's very clearly a face.
Very, very funny. It's very, very funny. You may be disappointed with the answer, but it was when it was like really, I would say it's much more difficult to paint with like watercolors with that technique. It's just like when you're doing the self-taught and learning, I didn't have the technique,
Hmm.
you know. So then when my partner got me some Posca pens, I really started to go deep into it. That was just in the last, let's say, 5 years. To me, they were really becoming figurative because I was working with Poscas.
Hmm.
So the technique
Okay.
itself help get me there.
So it helped
But
clarify the
well, it helped me just it was much easier for a technique for me because I'm not really an artist. Coming back to that.
you are an artist. So because you work so differently than me, because I know what I'm gonna do. I think about it and then I have an idea and then I go and I make it. And you're very different in that way. Can you describe the process to tap into your unconscious or subconscious and then like how does that all start?
I do not know. I mean, there are some paintings that I've gone back and I don't even remember most of them, yes, but there are some where I can't even remember like exactly when I did that or because it's like a trance. I'm alone. I'm for many, many years I worked with the same brush. I had a similar process. I had my piece of, paper. Mostly I was working on paper, some canvas, but working with acrylics, watercolors, and I would have this brush, dip water, let it drop, and then the form would come in front of me. And then as I would be working on it, it would start to appear. And then I would be, oh, I like that look. I like that gaze.
Mm,
Let's
mm,
work on that more. And then I would really develop it. Then I would be able, the watercolor was cool because if I didn't like it, I could remove it, like spot it, like, add water, dilute it, remove it with some paper towel and then start again where it's just really hard with like Poscas, you can't do that, you
you're
can't just
committed.
once it's there. So
Yeah.
that's became very stressful. So, different experiences with different materials, you know.
Let's take a quick break. Um, I am going to read a little commercial just for fun and to give you a little break. Have a sip of water. All right, here we go. This podcast is being fed, yes, fed, by 1982 beef a la grecque frozen TV dinners. Erica and I stuffed our faces with a lot of these frozen sky plates when we grew up in the commune Synanon. My favorite part was the cherry pie, but they started to remove that corner of the TV dinner in an effort to make us eat healthier. Here's to the frozen beef a la grecque contributing to how Erica and I turned out as human beings. That's my commercial. Do you remember those TV dinners?
Beef a la grecque, 4 bean salad, 3 striped potatoes, 2 TV dinners, and a tiny little bit of.
Hagen Dazs. Yeah, of course. That was a song we used to sing in the commune. All right, that was a quick break. Um, that painting that you have behind you, it's green. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
This one here.
Yeah, yeah. So just to describe to the viewers, it looks like a man with a helmet on, and it's green, and again, no ears and a stripe for a nose. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
This is one of the very most recent ones that I've done. Beginning of this year, actually, I was notified that now, of course, this is all what's so interesting about the process is that I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to make a soldier.
Mm,
But I've been thinking a lot in my mind. I've been a bit terrified because the Belgian kids who were 17 years old, all of the 17-year-old young men at the time, my son, 17, received a letter to invite them to be voluntary in the army. So it was really scary for me, and I've been thinking, God, how can I avoid this? Should we be thinking about this? This is the first sign. It starts like this, and then it becomes forced conscription, right?
Mm.
So if you look at the signs, you know a little bit about history, you see that we're where we're moving. You know, you see the European budgets moving. That's all politics, but moving away from the Green New Deal to militarizing, our and spending all of our money in that. So it was terrifying. So I sat down and I did one of the very few paintings that I did this year, and this is well, I don't know. So far, maybe this year we're into the month of March. I've only done about 10 pieces so far, but yeah,
That's great. I love it. It stood out
you
in
know,
the background.
it's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Beautiful. Most of your paintings are small format,
Yes.
and what I noticed, I guess in a sad way, is that most galleries and museums love the large. Like if you go into any gallery nowadays,
Yep.
it's mainly like huge. It's just huge spaces and huge
It's all about the
walls.
scale. It's all about the scale.
And but yet you do these very small scale pieces. Can you talk a little bit about why you work in that scale? And do you ever think about that larger scale?
Well, absolutely. Now there's several dimensions, of course. So one of them is just out of being practical that the amount of material, like first of all, when I was traveling a lot, I wanted to be able to do my work, and I didn't want to have a dedicated studio
Mm,
with all my equipment with big, huge canvases that you couldn't move around. and and also I'm kind of a speedy, like agitated person, so I like to move. When I'm painting, I'm quite still, but I like to work in different places. Sometimes I'm sitting, sometimes in my kitchen, sometimes on the floor in my bedroom, sometimes out in the garden, sometimes I'm by a lake. It depends on where I'm at in the hotel, like wherever. So just the practicality is one issue. The second thing is just the cost of the materials became an issue because I wanted to do something that was really affordable because I myself, was
mm,
part of the rebel in me. I was really annoyed that until I was like 45 years old, I could never even buy a piece of art. Like after so late in life, I could
mm.
only buy afford like an IKEA poster. Why
That's
would I
funny.
do, for me personally, if that's how I feel, why don't I do something? Why don't I stick to my real word and stick to my values and make a piece of painting that anybody can afford that's going to be like less than $250? So in order to do that, it has to be according with the amount of time I spent on it, the amount of materials I spent on it, so that I can also still feel like it's, not a total loss for me. I'm sharing with the other that's something that they really like, but that it's also not something I can continue doing and keep
Mm.
up with, and afford to do. So that was the other thing. And then also I got very annoyed when when I did a couple of expos. I've done a couple of different events and showings, and I'd get a lot of feedback. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Have you ever scaled up? I mean, really to make something like this, but huge, right? And then I
Yeah.
thought, it's even something that I wrote about when I was studying, I was in a feminist class when I was in the university. I mean, it was like about your size. I'm very small, in fact. I'm 1 meter 55, and so I knew that, you're never going to be on the runway. I mean, you're cute, but you're not beautiful. Well, apparently in art as well. It's cute if it's a small
It's cute
format,
to be small.
right? But you're not considered beautiful, right? So it's just kind of interesting that how everything that has to be really, massive is what's considered extraordinary. And
Yeah.
actually, if you go to school, you can technically take anything. It's just like making yogurt or perfume, right? You put it into a factory, you get your recipe, and then you learn to scale it up. Then I guess that would be more, getting into insurance and the shipping, and then the whole, it's just,
So
and
you,
that's not a big deal, but it's also just I guess I want to make art for anybody, and I don't want to make it for just wealthy people because it's very annoying. It's another rebel in me that only wealthy people can afford art. And when most of us are struggling, most artists can't live themselves. So why would they sell their art for so much money? Why do people buy it for so much money? The majority of us can't live by what we love. Like I had to be a businesswoman for 20 years and work day and night in order to now be able to say, okay, now I've put a little bit of money aside now so that now I can do what I love after 20 years.
yeah, was it hard to make that transition?
Not at all.
You were waiting. It sounds like you were waiting for it.
I mean, it's been incredible. Now, of course, I have to admit, to be honest, I don't just do art. I mean, I don't, this is part of the box that we're talking about. This kind of
Hmm.
this being in this box and stepping out of the boxes. I don't when I meet somebody today, I don't say now I'm an artist. I mean, the truth is that I think the majority of us, we, I mean, yeah, I'm an
Hmm.
artist when I'm doing art, and then when I'm playing tennis, I'm a tennis woman, and then when I'm baking, I'm a baker. And
So when you meet someone and they say, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that?
I'm a rebel. I say, so I used to do interviews, and sometimes I do art, and sometimes I, paint, and sometimes I bake, and sometimes I, just sit in the garden and look at the sky, and
I was curious with you always focusing on the face when the pandemic hit and everything was changing in the world and everyone started to cover their face with masks. Did did that affect your work in any way?
yeah, I have a couple of pieces which are dedicated to that period. Of course, that's going to impact your work because it, that's my surrounding at the time.
Right. So is it usually your surroundings at the time that bleed into to the work, or are you traveling, like, do you spend periods of time when you're thinking about your childhood and that's what's coming out in the work, or do you think about the future?
Eric, I think art is influenced by our surroundings, but it's not conscious. I didn't sit down and be like, now I'm going to do COVID. I'm going to do a series on COVID. But I have like Naomi. I gave a piece to Naomi, our sister,
Hmm.
and there's shields. I called it COVID shields. It's all blue, and I was sitting there at their house, and you see these faces, but then they have these shields, which is obviously the mask, right?
Got it. Yeah.
I didn't sit
Okay.
down and be like, now I'm going to do shields. It doesn't.
It just came. I mean, with the absence of ears and nose, is there a favorite part of the face that you're attracted to?
Well, what I think is extremely fascinating, and I've done a lot of work on this in my professional career, but it's the eyeballs. The eyeballs. I mean, just by shifting them, they say they change the whole expression. And of
Right.
course, I used to have to write, thousands of reports on people, and looking at their eyes and how they shift and how honest they are, and do they really making, and also, are they making them feel comfortable so that they're truthful, and so a lot of my paintings have a kind of an emotion that is a title, like actually, like they could like lost, confused, concerned. I was writing reports, so I'd have to use these words to describe a personality. So it's also kind of interesting that it's an extension of that process that's come out through maybe a process in my work as well.
If I had to guess, after looking at a lot of your work, I would have said the eyes for sure. Definitely the most powerful part. Do you ever paint your own face?
It's interesting. I mean, I can't go take one and be like, that's my self-portrait. I identify because they don't have wide mouths. They're not huge mouths. Maybe the eyes are a bit, say the part, they're not too wide. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if here you're going to be able to find my face in that mess. Probably not.
But it's in there somewhere.
Probably. But it's also the expression that keeps coming out that it's very often a similar expression. Huh? There's not really a big smile. There's a saddened side to it, which is some people have said, Eric, I love your work, but I just don't want it. It's so sad. I can't have that up on my wall. I'm like, okay,
Interesting.
then you won't have that on your wall.
So because you're surrounded by, I mean, or because you paint from your subconscious and the surroundings, do the happier moments come in at times?
I mean, I'm extremely happy person, but I think the art is important. I think it's more the political. It's the side that the voice that maybe that I want to get out that I can't get out. I mean, so it comes out that way. Yeah.
That's very clear. I think you need an outlet
Yeah.
almost
To
to like
survive
get
this
to get
crazy
rid yeah,
world.
exactly, to get rid of, to get
My
to
God.
let that stuff go, like get it out. Like
Right.
I think there's a lot of creative people, even performers or entertainers, that kind of go to a dark place in their work and their stuff, but that actually is therapy in a way. It
Yeah.
helps
Well,
to get
absolutely.
out
I
there.
mean, now it's not even like a question of, oh, I want to just sit down and doodle. It's like more something that it's just like a part of me, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, this just popped into my head, but because of like the sort of the sorrow and the kind of the pain that's out there, do you ever draw people who are two-faced?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean Two Face, it's that I do like I've done like series. So like one series was gossip. Those are obviously like people talking behind your back, right? That's a two-faced person. You
Right.
want to call it like that.
Do you think that you'll ever paint beyond the face?
I just don't put a limit on anything.
Right. I
I
knew
just
that would
never
be your
want to.
answer because you don't really know what you're gonna do when you
I get very bored. I mean, I don't want to do Poscas anymore. I did that for 3 years. I did a whole bunch of them, and now I'm like, I'm done with that. I mean, even I have a hard time. No wonder Van Gogh, bought off, his ear or went crazy. I mean, if you do a flower 10,000 times, that'll make any of us crazy.
yeah.
I think there has to be, some kind of evolution and change. And I, look at it and now, this just last year, I started 6 months ago. I've had a lot of fun with doing collages. That was a whole new dimension. Then I started collage and mixed media. And then I started working on wood, which I loved. I did a whole
Oh,
series on wood, which, so yeah, I mean, and then the watercolor was really intense. And I loved the watercolor. And I'm going back to the watercolor, to the gouache, so pastels is also a lot of fun, and I like to, and I'm manual. I
yeah.
realized how much I like also the whole process of painting, mixing, stirring it up, adding it, splashing it, making a mess. But I
That's
haven't gone
great.
to the oils. That's one thing I haven't touched because I don't want to get into the chemical processes of having it's just the whole thing of the brushes and using so much chemical and then gloves, and it just seems like such a mess,
Yeah.
you know?
That's fair. Yeah. All right, let's have
Appreciate it.
another. I'm gonna give you another break. You ready? All right. This segment is brought to you by Face Yoga. A little facial stretch works wonders. Start with upward dog and downward dog with your eyebrows. Rise them put them down, up and down. That's it. Then take your jaw and work some sun salutations into that. Can you feel the released tension? Now, soften the backs of your eyelids, soften the backs of your eyes, and then, with a deep breath, lift your cheek muscles to the sky. It's called a smile. Now do it again. With this simple face yoga, you can do away with the 12-step skincare routines. Toss out those toners, serums, and mystery creams. The new Face of Faces is nothing but a few stretches that bring out the all natural ooh la la. No makeup, no products, no tools, just you and that special face of yours. Side effects may include confidence and some extra sleep. Face yoga, because your face doesn't need fixing, it needs appreciation.
That is so funny.
A
And the
little, a
cool
little.
thing is the thing is that I love it. I hope that there's no filter here. But
There's no
like,
filter.
okay, cool. Okay, good. Look, let's show them off now. Be proud of our wrinkles. But see, for 20 years I did this. I was listening to people like this. My eyebrows were raised because I was listening,
Yeah,
to show some interest. And it was interesting what people were sharing, asking them about their careers and what they were learning and what didn't they like about their managers. So I was always like, oh, so every
yeah,
single
that's
line is
really good.
important, and it shows you it's a real sign of life.
Yeah, exactly. We should be proud of our faces and stop trying to fix them all the time. All right, so we've come to a different P in this podcast, P's in the podcast, and you and I talked a little bit about creating something together, and we went back and forth, and you had a nice idea that we would maybe look at a piece of your work and then try to describe it for the audience and make something out of it or tell a story about it.
We can look at it, and then maybe we can just go back and forth with a phrase or a word and just see what make it
What
tell a
comes?
little story, or it would be like a little poem about this piece.
Okay, that sounds fantastic.
So I'll hold it up.
Yeah, let's hold it up into the center of yeah, so I'll tell you if I can see it. There you go. Okay, perfect. All right. I'm just taking it in for a second. Um so I'm going to say that the ladies have come together as a powerful unit in this piece.
Okay, hidden and concerned, maybe surprised,
Lots of personalities trying to figure each other out.
naively stepping out,
Some distrust as those look at others trying to take over.
playful and colorful, decorated.
Can somebody please turn on the air conditioner? It's always an experiment getting together and doing something, but that was a nice
Yeah,
little poem.
that
I
was
like
fun.
that.
Thank you,
That
Earl.
was a good exercise. Yeah.
Stretching us out, new ways of thinking and seeing.
I like to bring humor into things, and I think it helps get us past the problems of the world. And I always, as another the P in the podcast, I always bring in a joke from Max the Axe. He always delivers one to me, and it usually tries to be on theme. And so, hot off the press, I have from Max here, and I'm gonna read you this joke. I hope you like it. The horse walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Why the long face?" See, it's on theme, right?
It's perfect.
I'll give you another one. He brought two this time. I don't know why, but here we go.
On theme.
What did the right eye say to the left eye? He said, "Between us, something smells." That's our joke from. I'm glad you're laughing so
Wonderful.
much.
I can be American and be like, that's hysterical, but then not laugh. Sorry, that wasn't very nice.
That's okay. You are American. All
I know. Well,
right, let's jump back into some of these questions. I wanted to know what keeps you up at night.
what keeps me up at night is many, many things, huh? Um, I think the most important thing that I'm concerned about is nuclear war.
I mean, nuclear war has been a threat for a long, long time. Are you more worried just because of how the world is at so much tension right now?
Absolutely. I mean, there's like a clock, where they say that, professional scientists have gotten together and say, okay, before midnight, this is like kind of the symbolic. How close are we to nuclear meltdown? And
Mm,
we're like at night. We're like at, 1 second away from that point in history. So
interesting.
look at how many times where the Ukrainian, the largest nuclear site in all of Europe, was without electricity and heated up and came so close. And now look at between the Israeli war and Iran, that just, they were just both of their nuclear sites have been attacked. They've been attacking each other's nuclear sites. Absolutely terrifying. There's so many. I mean, I'm very concerned about just having a son and facing this, looking at being so close to, World War III. I feel like we're in World War III. And I don't know
Mm,
why we keep denying it. Why don't we just say it as it is? If you have, if you have so many wars going on, in different parts of the world, what is a world war? That's
right.
not a world war. If you look at Sudan and you look at Afghanistan, you look at Iraq and you look at Ukraine, and now we've had already 10 different European countries that have already had drones falling over our heads, and we've had the pipes where, the pipelines that have been busted under the sea, and we've had internet down, and I mean, it's just, and all of the cyber attacks. I mean, that's war, right? So
Yeah.
5 million people have been displaced in the Middle East right now without a home. Little children getting attacked, in Gaza.
Yeah. No, I know it's hard to open the news
Yeah,
every day and see it.
it it
I
is.
mean, I
It's very, very disturbing. It's very, very disturbing.
no, I
And you
know. I
can't
actually
just, I don't want to just put it all out and be like, I'm going to just sing and, sing and play music and forget about it, because every single one of us, every single day has to do something towards that cause. Or else then you're part of, we have to be part of the resistance.
right.
Whether it's signing a petition, marching on the street, sending money for a good cause, doing your art and talking about it, that's going to, make change or affect change. Or, I mean, there's so many different ways that, helping
Mm,
somebody who's in need, making a sandwich for somebody who's at your doorstep. not
Yeah, yeah.
walking across from him and just stumbling on him and acting like you haven't seen him.
Right. With your son, what are the conversations you have with him about life and contribution to society?
Basically, I talk a lot about values, and I say, if you can stick to your word, you say you're going to do something, do it. For years, I mean, he always had pocket money, and then every single day we'd walk out and he'd always have to, give a piece away, give something away to someone,
Mm,
so that was just kind of part of the family. We
yeah,
always have money in the car. Whenever we get asked, we'd roll down the window and give the money away. I
that's
mean,
a nice idea.
I think many religions around the world have that, you know, taking care of others. I mean, starting out from when you have a bicycle and you're 3 years old and saying, "Hey, that guy doesn't have one. That family over there." I mean, just having him understand from a heart level to connect with that other boy, be like, doesn't that feel good that you've just shared your bike with that kid who doesn't have
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
I think if you don't share it, I think you're a bit of a psychopath. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's this whole movement about learning to, you have to possess before you give away, and that's like a whole nother parenting conversation.
I like that. It's funny because I don't carry cash much at all, but I like that idea of like making sure you have money in your pocket because there's so many times where I walk by somebody and I'm like, I don't have my wallet. I have my phone. I pay everything on my phone. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
you have to really, yeah, you have to
but you
be,
have to
that's
work
like the
at it.
one thing you have to be conscious, and you
You
have
have
to
to
go to
work
the,
at it. Yeah. No, that's great.
yeah, yeah, because
Actually,
nobody carries cash today. So the
I'm
excuse
gonna,
is it's horrible.
yeah.
I
No,
don't
I
have
know.
cash.
No,
Sorry.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea. I'm gonna put money in my pocket, my kid's pocket. Thank you for giving me that
Uh,
lesson. That's
uh,
a nice lesson. One last thing, because I thought it'd be nice to end on it. So basically, you said making art was like getting tipsy, and I love that so much. And I thought, you know what? Doing this podcast with you makes me a little tipsy. So no, it was fun, and thank you. I know we did this on a Sunday, and I appreciate you taking your
oh,
weekend
guys.
time
Yeah, every
to
day now
do
is
it.
a Sunday.
Oh, that's great. You should live every day
Yeah.
like a Sunday. That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Erica. Appreciate it.
That was fun. Thanks, Eric. Good luck. I'm looking forward to hearing it, and have a great rest of the day.
Amazing. Thanks again. Erica, thank you so much for that interview. That was fantastic. It was good to spend time with you again. We have reached the beginning of the end. And before I bounce on out of here and play with my kids and my lovely wife, I would like to give you my top 10 and a half favorite faces from the world of art. As of now, this list changes over different times. Okay, but as of now, here we go. Number one, it's always been on the list. It's Tutankhamun's mask. It was the first image that stuck into my brain and stayed there forever. I was a very young kid. I love that mask. I still love that mask. Number two is the Trifacial Trinity. This was a controversial Christian art style that depicted Jesus Christ with three fused faces in a single head. The idea was that you were looking at the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all in one face. However, a lot of people saw this as creepy and eerie. I find it beautiful and fascinating. However, the Catholic Church in 1628 decided to outlaw that style of representing the Holy Trilogy. And they told people to represent it as three separate things instead of one face. But I love them. Number three is The Librarian by Giuseppe Arcimboldo. If you were to tell me this was an expressionistic painting, I'd believe you and think that it was really good. It's a picture of a face as library books. However, this was not an expressionist painting. It was created 350 years before that, during the High Renaissance when people were still trying to figure out how to paint. It's incredible how abstract he was. He probably would have been forgotten if it weren't for the surrealists who rediscovered him. I don't really like his fruit and vegetable paintings that much. Fish paintings are interesting, but the librarian is great. Number four, Matthew Barney in his film Craymaster 4, his own character. It's a striking individual in an all-white suit with an animal face, droopy ears and horns and bright red hair, neatly coiffed. It was scary almost when I first saw it, but I kept coming back to it through life for inspiration. Number 5 is Francis Bacon's anything by him, really. But if I had to pick something, his Screaming Popes series. He took Diego Velázquez's portrait of Pope Innocent X and redid it probably 50 times, and they're incredibly disturbing. Speaking of disturbing, number 6 is Frida Kahlo's self-portrait of Thorn Necklace and Hummingbird. You can see her struggles and what she's going through in that painting, clear as day. The thorns are cutting into her neck. The hummingbird hangs dead on the thorns, and you just see in her eyes the pain that she's going through. Number 7 is Picasso's Weeping Woman. He like Bacon, he did a series of about 50 of these. I like the one that hangs in the Tate Modern. It's quite colorful and has what looks like a glass handkerchief, and the weeping woman is putting it in her mouth in a way that's just, you can't pull your eyes away from it. It's definitely a cubist dissection of grief. Number 8 is Salman Tor. He is a painter coming up today who is unapologetically vulnerable and always intimate. He uses color incredibly well. When he uses the emerald colors, it always reminds me of Wizard of Oz for some reason. Number 9 is Nan Goldin. I probably could have picked several photographs to put on this list, but I picked the one that hit me in the gut the hardest, and that was her self-portrait entitled Nan 1 month after being battered. When I saw it, I couldn't understand it. I wanted to understand so much more about her life. I followed her quite a bit, and still that picture lives in my gut. Number 10, David Hockney portraits. He's done a lot of them. They're all incredible. Recently, he did a Harry Styles portrait. I mean, at his age, he's still painting incredibly well. Number 10.5 is Baldessari's Connecting Dots. I call it a half because he covers all his faces with colorful dots. However, the first place your eye goes to are the round circles, which are the faces. It's interesting conceptually because by covering the faces, he forces you to look at everything else, which we rarely do. Anyway, that's my list. 10.5. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got a Substack newsletter if you want more content on faces. We also have a phone number. It's +1 646 580 0450. Give us a text or a call. Special shout out to my daughter Vanya, who has a beautiful face. She just recently graduated from high school. Congratulations, Vanya. I love you. That's it from me. Until next time, put a smile on your face and let your weird side take up a lot more space. Speaking of weird, I'm going to drink some water right now. And now I'm going to start. Okay, talk. I'm talking. Talk to you later. Wow, I just spit all over my mic.